Hi, this is Amanda Prochaska, and you're joining me for another AI Reality Bytes. I'm so glad that you're here. Today, we're going to be talking about change adoption. And the question that I hear so often from leaders is, I had an awesome change management strategy, but the change still did not stick. So how do we avoid that situation as leaders? And that is what we're going to be diving into today. So take out your pencils, pieces of paper, your AI agents, whatever you might be, but you're going to learn some really great golden nuggets on this particular conversation. All right, let's go ahead and dive in. So the question of the day is, I had a amazing, perfect, as perfect as it can be, change management strategy, but the change still did not stick. And that's actually the question that I pondered 7 years ago when I developed Alice, our change leadership methodology, because I saw that so often. I was like, man, I just worked my tail off. Like, we got the system up and running, got the change up and running, and I thought we did everything that we could, but we're still struggling to get people to adopt this change. And some of my philosophy is that while change management practices are great, they are highly outdated. We have to move so much faster these days. We don't have the luxury, most of us don't have the luxury of like a 5-year project or a 3-year project. We're talking about weeks and multiple projects going on at the same time. So I think some of the problem is those legacy strategies maybe not serving our needs any further. But that's another story for another day. So I'm not going to dive into that. But what I'm going to dive into today is how can we help ourselves be more successful in these change adoption strategies and get them to stick. And a lot of that comes down to how we're leading as leaders. So I'm going to walk you through this fairly quickly, but hopefully it resonates. So the first one is act with authenticity. And I will say, as a change leader myself, who was never really formally trained on these things, this is a mistake that I made all the time. So we had great change management strategies, but a leader like me would go out there and say, this new change is going to solve all of your problems, or we don't need feedback, we know exactly what we're doing, or we're just going to talk about the finished state but not talk about the journey. So when I train leaders on where change can fall apart, it usually starts with the lack of the authenticity. So the A in Alice is act with authenticity. And the way that I like to frame this for leaders to make it super simple is to talk about the journey. Okay, so the more that you can talk about the journey, the more real it becomes for the people around you, the more trust you will earn, the more conversations you will have. And the journey is not only like, how do we get from A to B, but also what is it going to take to get there? What are you going to feel along the way? What does it mean to transition into something new? What does that feel like physically? What does that feel like mentally? The more that we can be doing that, the better off we're going to be. A lot of leaders miss this. We just talk about the vision, which we'll get to here in a little bit later, or we oversell these changes because we're hopeful that it will help a lot of people, or we're hopeful that it will be more perfect than it is today. But that's not really what people need from you as a leader. They need to know the journey, what to expect, what it's going to take for them individually, and then collectively as an organization. So that's the first one. The second one is leading with love. That's the L in Alice. And the reason why this was a focus area is, again, leaders get this wrong all the time when it comes to change. And a lot of change management methodologies don't do a great job at this either. So you could feel like you have a perfect strategy, but if you are not listening to others, it's all going to fall apart. So leading with love, what I tell leaders all the time, if you think about leading with love, I would put an equal sign next to it and say that's listening. One of the foundational needs that every single person needs as they're going through change at work, change at home, change in life is to be heard. And even that person that keeps on asking that same question 15 times, or my daughter who asks me for Starbucks all the time. Those people too. We have to listen to those too. But again, a large thing that people get wrong, leaders get wrong, we communicate outwards a lot of information. We rarely spend equal amount of time or even not more time listening. So if you are struggling with this, if you're going through a change right now, I would take a step back and think of every communication as an opportunity for feedback, as an opportunity to listen, and it will be a game changer for you. Okay, moving on to I in Alice, which is inspire. I feel like this is probably not where we fall down often on change strategies. A lot of people focus on the visions, the missions, etc. However, it's in the nuance of this one. So as you all know, working in corporate, you have probably some vision statements that are long, run-on sentences with some semicolons in there and maybe some em dashes along the way that is not memorable. Like, you probably spent a whole day putting it together as a team. You walk out of the room and you're like, what did we say again? And it's hard to repeat as a leader. It's hard to get people behind it. So whenever I see this gap in inspiration, it comes down to lack of clarity and simplicity. So if you were to do this well to avoid issues moving forward, think of it more as a mantra or a tagline. So we had make purchasing easy or clearly visible procurement. Those are the things that people can kind of get behind. We see that often in marketing these days, and maybe even in politics, where mantras work really, really well. It sets the foundation for everything that you're doing. You can bring it up in every conversation, and it is memorable. So that's one thing. The other thing for our analytical folks out there, they like the numbers. So we often forget putting together numbers around what does success look like. So if you have a mantra and you say clearly simple procurement, what are the 2 to 3 metrics that you're going to measure and hopefully achieve to make that mission possible? Okay, so that's inspiration. Now the next one is C, which is create community. And again, we see this often. That's why I saw it often. This is why I put together Alice, was from all of my learnings and mistakes along the way. But create community is such a critical aspect because no one wants to feel like they're alone, especially when loneliness are at all-time levels these days. We have such an opportunity as leaders to make sure as you're moving a group through change that no one feels alone. So these are opportunities for open forums, for discussion, for co-learning, for exploration, for innovation, for just frankly for community, so people can share what's on their mind. So the more often that you can create communities of people, little tribes along the way that can help each other out during a change, the better off you're going to be. And then the last one is engage purposely. And I will say that this is one where we see often where someone's like, oh man, I had the perfect change strategy, but I always felt like I was pushing that boulder uphill myself, right? That's often what we hear. Gosh, I did it multiple times, but the more people that you can get involved championing the change, the better off you're going to be. And what better way to do that than leveraging something that we learned on social media, which is leveraging influencers. So influencers are all over your organizations. We actually, and I go into detail on this in the book, we have 5 different levels of or types of influencers in corporate America, or corporate in general if you're listening from overseas. And so if you can engage them, make sure that they are also championing your cause, the more ground game you're going to be, the more trust you're going to earn, and the better off you're going to be. Now, I do want to say a note here. Probably some change managers are like, I have a change network. Yeah, cool. They don't work. For the most part, over time, what we learned from change networks is that, yes, you have a group of people, you might have activated them, but do they truly have influence? Most of the time, the people in your change network were voluntold to do it, and they might or might not have influence, but for the most part, because they don't have the natural following within the organization, their job is very, very difficult to really truly activate that ground game. So I ask you to maybe think about that a little bit differently moving forward to truly get the value out of the networks that you're building. Okay, so those are the aspects of Alice. Really originally were created based off of my learnings. Now they're backed by neuroscience, but all in the effort to say, yes, you can have a perfect change management strategy. It still might not stick because you do not have the change leadership level activated through Alice. So with that said, I hope you liked this video. I love bringing this content to you. So if you want to learn more about digital transformation, digital adoption, change management, and AI enablement, stay tuned right here. We would love you to hit that like button and subscribe so we can continue the conversation well beyond this video. Have a wonderful day. Cheers.